What do we know about Fazan Aliza?
In translation, it means Knights of Glory. They're an Islamist group, a movement that have been trying to recruit French nationals, predominantly of North African origin, to travel to Pakistan, Afghanistan for terrorist training. They haven't been known in the past for being directly involved in acts of terrorism, but earlier this year they actually issued a statement on their Facebook page which spoke about attacking Americans, Jews and French soldiers. It's perhaps chilling that we've seen many attacks recently on French soldiers and also on French Jews. So it seems that their followers now are actually taking up arms. The question is, are they actually controlled by Al-Qaeda or merely inspired by the ideology?
There have been reports that this is an ideological group rather than one that is potentially a terrorist group that would have active activity, taking terrorist activity right now. This is known to the French government. This group has been known to the French government for having banned it in the first place.
Right. Their statements have become more vitriolic, more extreme, and that's why the French Interior Ministry took the decision to ban the group earlier this year. The problem is that some of these individuals are actually traveling abroad now, where it's difficult for the French authorities to monitor what's happening, who they're mingling with, and basically who potentially could be directing them in being more extreme. We've seen this in the United Kingdom in the past. Many individuals went off for terrorist training abroad. They came back radicalized. Part of that was the anti-chamber movement, where groups in Britain would encourage them to become more radicalized. We're seeing this in France now, and it's not necessarily new to the French authorities. Keep in mind, in the 80s and 90s, a lot of French nationals of Algerian origin were quite extreme in actually carrying out attacks. There's been a lull in France, but perhaps now we're seeing a return to this violence.
How do we know about how these groups operate in terms of all groups such as these would require funding, and how this would actually happen with a group like this and remain somewhat undetected?
Well, this group, Knights of Glory, have predominantly received their money from donations. Their followers have supported them. They have had their bases in Paris. Also,
do we know how big this group is?
They're not a huge group. They're known to have dozens of followers rather than hundreds, but it only requires a few to cause the chaos that we've seen. They also have a base in Limoges in central France, which is about 100 miles from Toulouse, which was the recent attack on the Jewish school. So they are recruiting people from within an area who know the location of some of these attacks, who have planned it. This individual, you could describe it as an act of lone wolf terrorism, which is disturbing because this would be the first lone wolf terrorism act that we've seen that succeeded. There have been plots in America and in the UK which have failed, groups that are individuals that are inspired by Al-Qaeda but not directed by them. This would be the first time we've actually seen a successful lone wolf attack.
Do you find it surprising that if this negotiations are taking place and the Interior Ministry is saying that he had agreed to surrendering at a specific time, is that surprising at all?
It's a little unusual. Again, if this individual is inspired by Al-Qaeda, to surrender doesn't go in context with the whole Al-Qaeda ethos and ideology. If he wants to be a martyr, which is what the group has always encouraged its supporters to be, chances are he won't be taken alive unless the French authorities can plan something without him knowing. But certainly the chances are this may not end well, but we'll have to wait and see.